Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new era of the AZ Wildcats podcast. This is going to be insane. Like I said, it's the new era of basketball. This should be a whole lot of fun. LOL?
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. We are in PHNX HQ2, and gearing up for HQ3, Kevin. I can't wait to start saying a little HQ3. It rhymes a little bit better, I feel like, but or actually Q2. I don't know. That rhymes pretty well. But HQ2 here in lovely Phoenix downtown on a Tuesday morning, Kevin. And we have a lot of Arizona athletics to get into. Obviously, Arizona's still in the tournament.
Yes.
Still chugging along. Big matchup against Duke. Could be potentially the biggest Arizona basketball win in a decade, I'd say, if they can get the job done against Duke, Kevin. But that's not where we're starting things off today because the Twitter streets were lit on fire this morning, Kevin.
Yes, they were. Well, Damon, you mentioned it. The Twitter streets were absolutely lit aflame this morning when, the transfer portal is open, Damon, for both men's and women's hoop.
Mm-hmm.
So, big stars like Donovan Dent has already entered the portal, New Mexico Lobos claim, but also Arizona women's basketball is completely in shambles right now.
Yes.
At least it appears from the outside looking in, as we discussed with the great Erica L. Day yesterday. Jada Williams has entered the portal. Skylar Jones, Katrina Kishnevic has entered the portal as well. And Brea Cunningham, Damon, has also entered the portal. So Arizona losing a lot of its major rotation players here, specifically with Brea Cunningham and Jada Williams leaving the program. But Damon, our women's basketball leader, Adia Barnes-Copa, had this to say on Twitter today. Today is going to be insane. Welcome to the new era of women's basketball. This should be fun. LOL.
That definition of fun.
Whew.
Fun is doing a lot of heavy lifting, Kevin. Lots of heavy
the
lifting.
LOL is doing a lot as well. I think it's like the LOL and the
I'm not laughing. Adia, I don't find it nearly as funny, I guess. I don't know. Our senses of humor must just be slightly different, but
oh my gosh.
From where I'm sitting, Kevin, it looks like all the talented players in this roster are getting out of town on the first bus out.
Damon, we were talking, I showed you that tweet pre-show, and I really shouldn't have, because I thought you had already seen it, right? And I showed Damon this tweet, and the level of befuddlement.
I mean, my jaw was on the floor.
On his face.
It's
crazy. Go ahead.
I was going to bring up what the comparison I made to it, Kevin, which I think is very apt. It's very reminiscent of Brent Brennan telling Arizona fans, you guys are going to love it. Right before, in his defense, he was able to get a lot of the players that entered the transfer portal back, like Genesis Smith and Traden Stukes and those type of guys. But saying you guys are going to love every second of it, and then immediately 20 players hitting the portal, that feels bad. And saying that this is going to be fun while Jada Williams, Skylar Jones, Brea Cunningham, and forgive me, I forgot the fourth woman there, but
Katrina Kishnevic.
All of our athletes are just out the door. It's Kevin. I don't know. I really just don't know what to say. It renders me pretty speechless, to be honest.
I'm gonna throw it back up there and read it one more time, because what we didn't talk about, I said it out loud, but I feel like this is a pretty petty tweet. If we're being completely honest with the situation, this is like my mom said in the chat, but she's correct. Like it is a sarcastic tweet, right? But I feel like if you're going to make a petty tweet, Damon, you were the king of the petty tweet in an extent.
I am.
Having a typo.
Self-proclaimed.
Having a typo in the petty tweet. I feel like that's a critical error.
That's a delete it.
Yeah, you're opening yourself up to like getting dunked on.
Mhm.
You're trying to dunk on someone or something, some narrative going on, but you gong to be insane.
Well, it's like when Cole Tate tweeted that he didn't come to Arizona to run the triple option with 2 Ps. It's like, you know, your quarterback's coming out and outwardly against the coaching hire that gets made or that was reported to have been made at that time with Ken N from Navy. Won't even try the last name. Sorry about that, people at home. But that being said, then, you know, it seems like he kind of called the shot there, and President Robbins and Dave Hickey, you know, flipped up on their decision, brought in Kevin Sumlin instead. Horrific decision when you look back on it. But all anybody can remember is the double P and the triple option. All Kevin's going to remember about this tweet is
it was going to be insane.
It's going to be insane.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, Chris said it in our comments. We do read the comments, and I saw your comment, Chris, that after our last podcast with Erica L. Day, he went back and watched the most recent press conferences. And yeah, no, you're right. Like, if you do listen to Adia, everything's hunky-dory, and you know, she's great, the team's great, and everything's going to work out, and it's no one's fault what's going on in the program right now. But it is kind of crazy when you combine this with her most recent comments about, you know, we knew the result going into the WBIT. We didn't really have the effort. We didn't really want to be here. It's like, you didn't want to be here. You're hosting the event. You didn't this isn't a Mick Cronin situation where it's like, oh, we got to go cross country and I'm going to complain about that. You went home and you lost to NAU for the second time in a calendar year.
It is completely unacceptable. Don't get me wrong, Kevin, but I guess what I would say is that, you know, when Jada Williams, I'm assuming she basically said she's not playing against NAU in the WBIT. In a way, yeah. Adia is kind of just being honest by saying, you know, we didn't really want to be here. The best player on the damn team, Kevin, didn't put her jersey on because she knew she was transferring, right? So I feel like clearly Arizona didn't care, and maybe Adia is just trying to express that and saying that, you know, the best player on the team essentially didn't care, and that kind of set the tone for everybody else. But Kevin, that being said, like, I think that the issue comes into play when you have Adia Barnes losing talent year after year after year now, and it seems like she can't retain this talent. It seems like maybe she personally is potentially butting heads with a lot of these players, and you know, difficult to kind of play with and for. So yeah, I mean, I think that there were already questions that needed to be asked about Adia Barnes and her ability to retain a roster, her ability to, you know, kind of like how sustainable was this, right? And I think answers are being given to you right now when the 3 most talented players on the team are in the portal, you know, 2 days into the portal opening. I don't know, man. It's tough because I want nothing more as an Arizona fan than for Adia to succeed at her alma mater. She's our second best player in program history. You know, it looked like it was a home run hire, frankly. We made a championship game. But, you know, there is all good things come to an end, Kevin, and I don't honestly she would have to make some big splashes in the transfer portal for me to feel comfortable with her coming back for another season, Kevin. And when I say big splashes, I mean like 4 or 5-star types that are shocking the women's basketball landscape. And, you know, like a move towards, you know, showing some growth and some progression instead of a regression as we've seen the last few years here. Look,
Damon, like to me, it's you mentioned like not only are a lot of Arizona's rotation players leaving, it's a lot of young rotation players. This isn't like, oh, like a 5th-year senior just wants to get like a national title shout and they just don't think that Arizona's ready to get over that hump just yet. That's the total opposite of what's happening. These are young players. Skylar Jones, a sophomore. Katrina Kay, I'm not sure I'm even pronouncing it right, so I don't want to mess it up continually through this show. Serbian freshman. Brea Cunningham, 6'4" sophomore. Jada Williams, sophomore. One of the best players in her age group for how long, Damon, right? Your best friend, I say in jest. But, like,
I know.
This is,
and can you believe she didn't even hit me up?
Consult you.
No, she didn't even hit me up and say, what do you think? What do you think, Dame?
Should we hash this out on the pod, Dame Dog?
Dame Dalla. What's up, my G? That's how typically me and Jada talk. But
yeah. I guess you just have to be the homies to know that. But no, yeah, excuse me. To me, it's a huge red flag. Like, and I am one that likes to be patient with these kind of things. I'm not really one to jump on the coach and be like, oh, you just can't keep a team together. You're not good at balancing a locker room. But this is a trend now, right, Damon? This is a trend of Adia Barnes teams either having a player dismissed or having talented players seek better situations elsewhere. And in a vacuum, that's okay. But when you look at all the compiling context here, it does seem like there's a larger issue. And I'm not going to be the one to identify the larger issue here because I'm not in that locker room. But it does seem like some things do need to seriously change for the women's basketball program to seek advancement, because it's only been downhill since the national title game, which awful to have to say that. So yeah, Kobe says it here in the chat. It's not even the coaching stuff that's bad. It seems toxic. Kobe says Adia fights with fans in Facebook groups, blocks people on Twitter because looking for her own name, got burners on Twitter. Kobe says it is bad. I mean, obviously, like the fans that go to the games still seem to support Adia. The fans online, it doesn't really seem to be a ton of Adia Barnes support, at least as a coach, right? The Arizona fans still like Adia Barnes because, as you alluded to, program legend, got this team to a national title game with the, only second in the program to the player that she coached in the national title game, right? So, like, Adia Barnes is an Arizona legend for sure. Yeah. Not trying to you can't take that away from her. But it does seem like maybe her time as the coach of the women's basketball program, maybe it should come to an end, Damon. That decision is yet to be made. You and I are not the ones to make that decision. But Adia Barnes, very highly paid, and you said it, like, she's gonna have to kill it in the transfer portal, right? But it to make an NBA comparison,
like light it on fire, yeah, Kevin. I'm not even talking about just like killing it. Like, if she's coming back at the salary that she's coming back at, I think she needs to get a top 10, top 20 portal class. Like, there's no excuses, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to me, to make an NBA comparison, like I remember when James Harden was being traded from the Rockets, right? There was a lot of, and anytime a star is traded, right? There's a lot of hemming and hawing over what the package should look like for that player. And I think people do a lot of over-analysis of this stuff because you're trying to get back assets that equal what you already have, right? And I think if we're thinking, well, in order to stay, Adia needs to kill it in the transfer portal, is she going to bring back Jada? Is she going to bring back Brea Cunningham? Because those would be players that you would want in the transfer portal.
Those are two of the biggest players in the portal.
That's my point. So I'm saying, like, if you're going to go kill it in the transfer portal, you would better go get back what you already had, because it's going to be hard to get better when you're losing your best players already. So, yeah, Adia Barnes seemingly is in a very, very tough spot with the Arizona basketball team.
Here's where maybe there's a bit of silver lining, Kevin, is the cupboard is now bare, right?
Correct.
So
fresh start.
Obviously, Arizona women's basketball has the ability to put a lot of money on the table because Adia Barnes is a top 10 highest paid coach in the sport. Jada Williams was top 10 in followers in women's college basketball. So I'd assume that her NIL deal is pretty.
Hey, that Porsche's portion. That Porsche's still working,
yeah,
man.
I'm certain that, she's getting her equivalent share of that because she's a, big time player and has a lot of, I guess what's the word for it? Like, she's a big social presence.
Has a lot of notoriety.
Yeah, she's a big social presence. So, like, I saw our dude Clarence from DLS Cowboys, Kevin, quote tweeting about Jada entering the portal yesterday. And he's the biggest Cowboys journalist in the world. And he's talking about Jada Williams because that's how big of a name Jada Williams is. I think it just goes to show that, hey, Arizona does have a little bit of extra money that they can hand out here. The pie is very untouched, Kevin. So I would say that there is room for potential because of that. And the team wasn't exactly great this year. They lost to NAU twice. They missed the tournament. Like, it's so bringing everybody back wasn't exactly I think what you wanted either. Yes, in an ideal world,
you want to add.
You want to have Jada Williams, Brea Cunningham, Skylar Jones, and then add on top of those three players. Now you don't have any, but maybe having all of your NIL available should be able to land you a few top players in the portal here. But yes, in general, it seems hard to improve upon what you had last season when you're losing basically all of the positives that you had from last season. It's just such a disappointing fall from grace for Adia Barnes and Arizona women's basketball because it felt like we were just on top of the world. It felt like this was
Felt like
so
just the start,
sustainable.
only the beginning.
It felt like this was the next 20 years of Arizona women's
Yeah.
basketball being a top 25 team year in and year out. And man, it just hasn't been that at all, man. Just downhill year after year after year here.
You know what I think? Sorry, but you know what I think the biggest red flag with this is, Damon? Like I alluded to it earlier, but there's another element to the youth that's leaving. I think like if you're losing juniors or seniors and they can't see the vision, that's one thing. But if Adia Barnes as a coach can't get Jada Williams, Brea Cunningham, and Skylar Jones to see the vision forward, and they would rather go elsewhere to find a different vision that they believe in, that's a big red flag to me. Because if you can't sell the vision to those people who are already in the locker room, like how are you going to sell it to someone who, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like is watching that from the outside looking in. Because this is a team that's fought hard. Like as the results have not been there, you can't say the team hasn't fought, right? And so I think the team that is willing to fight for the University of Arizona, not even buying into the future vision of the program, if there is a future vision for the program right now, is a huge red flag to me, Damon.
Yeah, it certainly isn't encouraging, Kevin, and just I don't know. I know Adia likes to have fun with people on Twitter, and I say that in jest a little bit because I feel like she like low key is like kind of gets salty with people.
She's gone to get salty sometimes on Twitter for sure, no doubt about it. Adia Barnes is going to get really salty at times, but you know that's just the way things gone sometimes.
Yeah, what Kevin said. It does seem as though to me that she definitely gets fed up with
Yes.
people and basically just when she's the kind of the talk of the town, really. So I know that she probably hates that we're talking about this, hates that everybody is talking about it on Twitter. But that being said, like she's driving it with her own.
Keep your players respectfully.
Well, I'm talking about like there's no, she doesn't need to tweet that at all.
No, correct. No, that's correct.
That just puts a magnifying glass on your situation. And with that tweet, like I was saying yesterday, it felt like, as Kevin puts the tweet back up here, it felt like to me, Kevin, like that she was likely gone with all of her players kind of going out the door. Like typically, Adia has lost a lot more of the peripheral rotation players, Kevin.
Yeah.
But kept the stars, the pillars of the program in place. And with the pillars leaving, to me, it felt like that was like maybe her saying like, peace out. Like you guys go while I'm leaving and like I'm about to go to Auburn, or, you know, we're going to mutually part ways here and I'm going to take a quick break. But now I'm starting to think with her tweet today that she is very much in the picture to be brought back here, Kevin. And I don't know that the picture to be brought back where she's being paid the same amount of money and Arizona loses all of its talent is like a good world for us to be living in. To me, that screams like Arizona she didn't want to leave because she has money on the table. And it's like, hey, fire me and give me my money or I'm going to still coach it out. And Arizona is like, we don't have money. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, Damon. I mean, it's a tough. It's a
not
tough
speaking
spot.
on any authority.
No, I know.
There.
Yeah, it's speculation, right?
Yeah.
But it's a tough spot that we're in. I have my hands on my head because I don't know where else to put them. Like it's just you're stuck, right? Like I was saying I was saying it earlier in the chat. Let me put my pit stains away. You know what I'm saying? But no,
with a black shirt on, Kev?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Anyway, that would be
some crazy work.
Serious sweat.
Yeah,
some sweat. Yeah, that's sweat equity for y'all at home. I'm doing this ish for y'all. But anyway, what I was trying to say
Steven walks
was,
in, shakes his head immediately hearing that.
See, Steven, he always catches me at bad times. I feel like Steven only hears me saying weird stuff. You know, I promise I'm intelligent, Steven. But what I was gonna say is if you as the coach can't sell your team the vision, like how and Kobe said it here in the chat, right? All year, Adia and staff talked about how this is a young core and that they're hey, none of that, no. He threw a four. What are you doing, Max? Max! Sorry for that at home, folks. We have some real hoodlums.
I'm glad I wasn't watching.
We have some hoodlums in this office.
It's just,
I'm gonna have to deal with that. I'm gonna have to deal with him after.
It's what I'll continue to say to you, Kevin. How many times have we done that?
Never.
Or anything
Literally
of the
never.
sort on an ASU show?
Never, ever.
Only time I've ever gone on an ASU show is when they wave me in and want to ask me a question specifically to an Arizona fan.
Crazy work. Also,
people in this
Rombo,
office with no respect, no professionalism, and Max is at the top of that.
We will be talking about Arizona men's basketball here after this quick break. We got clips from a press conference. Tommy Lloyd Caleb Love and KJ Lewis all spoke to media today, including myself. And so, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And also, is Arizona truly being disrespected by Vegas and the experts with this gambling line? We're going to talk about all that and more after this quick break on the AZ Wildcats podcast, y'all.
But first, Kevin, I want to talk about our friends over at Game Time. Kevin, it is opening day week.
Bang.
And you know what that means? It's time to get those Diamondbacks tickets. Game Time is the best option when it comes to those. Go hit up that Game Time Picks feature, Kevin. It's going to weed out the best deals for you, put them right in front of your face, show you what the view from your seat is, and give you the all-in pricing with all of the fees included so that you're not going to the checkout on your phone, Kevin, or on your laptop or wherever you're buying these tickets and getting an extra, $40 charge per ticket with it. So Game Time is going to be the place to buy all of your tickets. And if you use our promo code PHNX, you're going to get $20 off that first purchase. Make sure you guys get those Diamondbacks opening day tickets with our friends at Game Time. Make sure you guys get those Duke Arizona tickets if you're planning on hitting up that game. Save yourself a little bit of coin. Shave some off the top there. $20. Buy yourself a couple drinks with that money, and it's on me and Kevin here. It's on us. Promo code PHNX, GameTime.co, or download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Well, Damon, you were talking about our friends over at Game Time, and I want to talk about our friends over at Branded Bills. If you want to elevate your brand, use Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel for every single one of your personal needs at home.
In the business,
1,000% the comfiest hat you will ever put on your head. And if you say I'm lying, you can at me on Twitter, because Branded Bills seriously has comfort on lock. Whether it's snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style, y'all. They got partnerships with U of A, all types of campus collections as well. They even do charity work for our, Scum Devil associates over at ASU as well. They're a local company. They were founded in Arizona, in Mesa more specifically. They do give back to their less fortunate communities. Head to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off of your first order with Branded Bills.
Branded Bills, the way to go if you're an Arizona fan looking to buy a hat. Hit up the bookstore. Check out the campus collection that they have in store there. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Kevin, your mom is right. Some Mando for those pit stains.
Yep. Need some deodorant wipes like I'm John Anik. Yep.
100%. Javier in the chat here, and sorry, Rombo, we were just trying to get out ahead of some very pressing news.
To pull back the curtain a little bit, Damon. We were going to lead off top with the Arizona basketball men's talk, but I showed Damon that tweet from Adia Barnes, and he was so dumbfounded that we just felt like we had to keep that energy rolling into the first segment of the show. But now we're getting down to Sweet 16 business. No more depressing stuff.
Listen, man, we got Duke Arizona to talk.
We got big time ball to talk.
Tomorrow, pregame,
the next day,
the
day after that.
We got three
probably
shows.
The day after that, man. Yeah,
we're gonna get you your Duke talk. We're gonna get you your Duke fill, everybody. Javier starts it off hot here. Everyone's kissing Duke's ass like we are the Cinderella.
Yeah. And
that's a great place to start, Javier.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Kevin, let me just start off here by reading you with our friends at Bet365 the lines of all of the Sweet 16 games, just to put into context for everybody at home. Where Arizona is sitting at in terms of playing Duke. You have BYU, Alabama. BYU is a 5.5 point underdog. By the way, love BYU in that one. Florida, Maryland. Florida is a 7-point favorite over Maryland. Maryland is 7-point underdog. Arkansas, Texas Tech, 5.5 points in favor of Texas Tech. Michigan State, Ole Miss, 3.5 for Michigan State. Tennessee, Kentucky, 4 points for Tennessee. Auburn, Michigan, 8.5. 8.5, that's now the highest, Kevin. Houston, Purdue, 8. And what's that? Arizona, Duke, a 9.5 point spread, Kevin, on Bet365. The Arizona Wildcats are the biggest underdogs in the entire Sweet 16. Now, Kevin, you had some context for the last few Sweet 16s. So why don't you give the people at home some of that context? Who are some of the teams that have been the biggest underdogs in the past few years here in the NCAA tournament Sweet 16 round.
Yeah, so this morning I was trying to think of matchups that I remember from the past where there was a big underdog, whether they pulled off the victory or not. Just some teams that maybe rightfully were double-digit dogs or near double-digit dogs, because I feel like I'm going to say these matchups, and you let me know if you think Arizona fits into the dog spot in some of these matchups. Oral Roberts. You might remember that Max Abesmith team when they played against Arkansas's Moses Moody, who later went to get drafted by the Warriors. They were 11-point dogs. Only 11-point dogs to the number 3 team in the nation as the 15 seed. 15 seed, 11-point dogs to the number 3 seed in the nation. And like you said, Arizona, 9.5-point dogs to the number 1 seeded Duke Blue Devils. 2023, 6-seeded Creighton, 10-point favorites versus that Princeton team that actually defeated Arizona just a couple rounds prior, unfortunately. But Creighton, really strong team that year. Princeton, 10-point underdogs in that matchup. The same year, in the South maybe bracket, Houston was the number 1 seed facing number 5 seed Miami. So now we're kind of getting into that Arizona Duke range, that 1-4 range.
Yeah.
They were 7.5-point favorites versus Miami.
Miami won that game, if I do remember correctly.
They did indeed. That was Norchad Omier on that team as well.
Isaiah Wong.
Yes. Great memory out of David
Isaiah
Dog.
Wong was cold.
He was cold.
Continue.
He was very cold. NC State, 11 seed versus, I believe, the number 1 seed in that year, Marquette. Damon, just last year. 7-point dogs.
I think a 2 seed.
Oh, yeah, 2 seed. But only 7 points in that game. So after looking these back, and you laid it out, Michigan 8.5 versus Auburn, Purdue 8 versus Houston, Maryland 6.5 versus Florida. Arizona is being disrespected by this line. And if you are in the chat and you are like us and feel that way, let us know. If you think that Arizona, like my guy Jacob Spalding, shout out to you. Hope you got a run in today. Dogs are barking this week, especially the Wildcats.
Well, Kevin, I mean, you outlay here with this list. I mean, we're talking Oral Roberts. We're talking Creighton. We're talking Oral Roberts. We're talking Princeton. We're talking an 11 seed NC State that was in the last 4 in.
Yeah.
That are in the Sweet 16 that are getting these lines.
Yeah.
Miami.
NC State got a better line than
Miami, Houston, a little bit more, I think, like you said, similar to this Arizona line. That being said, Arizona has 2 points added onto that Houston-Miami score.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Arizona basically being treated as if it's a mid-major of sorts. Versus
it's kind of disgusting, honestly.
And it's pretty disrespectful, Kevin. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a team that, while they had a horrible non-conference, has essentially gotten blown out 1 time throughout the entire slate of conference play in what we can now, I think, claim, Kevin, as the most difficult conference in college basketball, without a question.
Certainly the toughest. The toughest.
Based off of what the SEC did in this tournament here.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue on that and just basically say that I feel like we're talking about Arizona in a context that, as if they're this team that is, as if they're UNC this year. You know what I mean? As if they're North Carolina that has a lot of talent and has gotten to this point based off their talent, but has been extremely inconsistent. When Arizona's been playing consistent basketball for the better part of 3 months now, Kevin. And I don't know, man. I don't think this team should be a 9.5-point underdog to anybody. I've watched them play Houston, who is a great team, top to bottom, right? They go toe-to-toe with them.
Yeah. And I think,
I know they didn't cover the last Houston game, but that was because of a freaking last-second dunk to lose Damon all of his money when it's like, that was a close game from whistle to whistle. Mm-hmm. And now you have Arizona going against Duke and the spread is a double-digit
close to
margin.
Yeah.
If you pick Duke, you're saying you're going to win by 10 or more.
True. That's true. And I think, if you want to really break it down to why the line might be that line, Duke is the best net rating team in history. They have the best player in the nation. They have an incredible freshman as well. Tyrese Proctor is, I think, 17 for 18 or something absolutely stupid in the tournament from behind the arc. The team looks incredible. And only to add on to that, they beat Arizona by 14 points in November, right? So laying all that out, I understand that both the two teams are very different now, and Damon and I are going to talk a little bit about that in the later half of this show as well. But Damon, I think we should actually let Tommy and Caleb Love talk about, the underdog mentality that this team, might have or might not have, because Tommy Lloyd, I don't think he's buying into all that, Damon. Let's let the coach speak for himself here.
Bruce, you know how I am with expectations. I mean, who expected us to win? You? I mean, like, listen, we're going to play a good, tough 40-minute game against a good team. I mean, Clemson was good. Obviously, we know Houston's a pretty good program, right? I mean,
Right.
like, sometimes we can have revisionist history and think like
Right.
that he had something figured out down there. So, like, no, these are all tough games, and I'm not playing it any different. Hey, there's no more pressure on us today than there was on us, or going to be Thursday than there was on us Sunday. I mean, because if you win, you continue in the tournament. If you lose, you go home. The stakes are no bigger than that. So to me, I'm not going to try to magnify the stakes or play us a role. We're an underdog. We're a favorite. I mean, that kind of to me is wasted energy. Let's go in. Let's see if we can play a great effort and energy and great focus and make it a game. And as the game plays out, see if we can adjust where we need to and find a way to come out on top. I mean, that's always the plan. So I'm not good looking at it at the favorite underdog thing. I mean,
Yeah.
No, it doesn't feel different at all. I mean, in each game, it really don't matter if you're the favorite or the underdog, because anybody can be beaten and you can beat anybody. So I think obviously we got a chip on our shoulder, regardless of if we were the underdog or not. I think that's just how we play, and I think that's just the type of guys that we have on our team. And so, like I said earlier, we're gonna come in with our, hard hats on, and we're gonna listen to coach's plan, and we're gonna stick to that, and we're gonna figure out, the best way to, finish this game out.
Just feels like a team that, isn't really concerned about what other people are saying regarding how unbelievable Duke is. And KW puts in the chat here, the line doesn't get set off disrespect. Everyone is putting their money on Duke. I mean, the line got set at 9, so you could say that, yes, there has obviously been a little bit of money on Duke with that half-point hook. But essentially, it's in the same spot that it was when it opened. And the books opened it that way because that's what they think. They think that will split the money. So, yeah, I mean, I have a hard time believing that this team is going to get blown out, Kevin, when they know that their backs are against the wall. They know that this is the season on the line here. They already played this team. They've already gotten a look at this team. We know Tommy Lloyd is great against, a team that he's already lost to or coming off of a loss. And yeah, man, I don't know. I think that this team, maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit here, Kevin, but I think that this team is going to show up and bring all the energy. I think that we're going to treat this like it's the national championship, and that's how they should treat it. And I'm sure that Duke fans are like we're everybody's national championship, and that's true to an extent. But yeah, I think Arizona, we know Caleb Love's going to take this game seriously. Tommy Lloyd's going to take this game seriously, and yeah, I think that Arizona's going to come out and play with the pressure on Duke, because the pressure really is on Duke when you put into context that people think you're going to lose by 10 plus points.
I think that's very well said, Damon. And I also want to address our guy Kike here in the chat, who says, "What was the point spread in 2011 when Arizona was a 5 seed?"
I think it was 9.5. But
seed?
let me do some research on that.
It was 9.5. David Blattman posted that last week, I think, when this matchup was officially set. And Kike goes on to explain that Derek Williams took care of business mostly by himself in that matchup. But yeah, I don't know if Kike was asking that sarcastically as to cue us up to say it was the exact same. But if you weren't, it was, I think, 9.5 set at back in 2011 as well. So yeah, kind of.
It's the biggest Arizona has been a dog in the tournament since 2011 with the exact same line against Duke.
Wow. Yeah.
And let me, for context for that game, Duke and Arizona were very tight in the first half. It was very back and forth. I think Duke was actually leading. In the second half, Arizona won by 25 points because Derek Williams just completely took over the game and Duke folded. I don't necessarily I'm not saying that that's the recipe for success. Very different teams, but I think that it just goes to show that a lot can happen. And also, that's kind of how the Arizona Duke game went this past year, Kevin. You had Arizona for 20 minutes was neck and neck with Duke in the first half. It was essentially a 3 to 5 point game the entire first half. And then at the end of the game, Duke just pulled away and it ended up being I believe a 14-point win margin for Duke there against Arizona. And it's I was rewatching the highlights right before we got on this show, Kevin. And the amount of easy buckets that Duke got in that game in large part because of poor off-ball defense, not paying attention to cuts, that which is a laziness and effort thing to an extent. I think Mo Krivas, which we can get into a little bit more, I think isn't exactly the best defender in the world, especially when you compare him to a Tobe Awaka or a Henri Veesaar, who I think are both better at defense. And then Cooper Flagg was just getting easy shot after easy shot. We weren't putting a body on him. He's getting into the lane untouched. At the rim, he's not going to miss. He's 6'10", Kevin. He's getting wide open mid-range jumpers. Con Knepel is getting an offensive rebound, taking it back out to the 3-point line, realizes there's no one around him, and is like, yeah, I'm going to shoot the three. And it was the biggest three of the game. If you go back and look at the context of when that happened, it basically split the game wide open. I think it went from like a 5 to an 8-point game, kind of with less than 10 minutes left. So it's the simple things. And I think Arizona is way more locked in now than they were in November when it comes to that stuff. And that's why I'm sitting here and I'm like, it was a 14-point win margin. Everything went wrong for Arizona. We played a garbage game. We shot terribly, and it still was 14 points. 10 points is just way too much, Kevin. And, I know that this is we want Arizona to win, not cover the spread at this point in the season. But yeah, I just goes to show for me that I think that this is going to be a very, very close game from start to finish. I don't expect Duke to kind of pull away like they did here at the end of this one in Tucson.
I agree with your assessment of it. I think that, Duke is a hell of a team. They were a hell of a team in November as well. They've improved since November, just like Arizona has improved since November.
Yeah.
But I think, you alluded to it there. And Caleb Love kind of spoke to this in his answer when someone asked about, I think it might have been Bruce Pascoe, asked him today about, hey, what went wrong in that first Duke matchup? What can you take away from that Duke loss in November to carry into this victory? And I think, he kind of, and I'm going to play his answer here in a second, but it was Arizona was defeated by an incredibly talented team,
Mm-hmm.
but they also did not give themselves a chance to win, like you alluded to as well with some of the errors that they made. So here's what Caleb Love had to say about the first Duke matchup this season.
We didn't shoot the ball well at home. We put ourselves in position to win the game multiple times throughout the game. And, they just made more plays than us at that time. And, we was such a different team early on. We're so much more better. We're so much more connected on both ends of the floor now. Our offense has changed. Our defense has, taking a jump. And so I think, going into this Duke game, we got to be more physical than them. We got to, hit on all cylinders on the offensive end as far as, executing our plays to a T. And, with that team, you can't really make, too many mistakes as far as, defensive assignments and, turning the ball over and things like that because, they'll make you pay. So, we just going in there with, a fresh mindset, knowing that, obviously they got us early on, but, we're totally a different team now.
Little cameo from KJ Lewis and Bruce Pascoe's phone vibration there. But
Yep.
no, I think Caleb Love, he spoke to like exactly what you spoke to, right? This Arizona team is so much more connected on both sides of the ball now than they were in November. They're a much more cohesive unit on both sides of the ball now than they were in November. And honestly, they figured out a lot about what leads to success. Not only is Krivas not playing anymore due to injury, but you have players like Tobe Awaka, Henri Veesaar, Trey Townsend to a lesser extent, Caleb Love in different ways that have totally evolved their game since November. They are not the same players that would have taken the court against Duke in November. I thought a very interesting part of that answer was that, this team seems to understand, if Caleb Love's answer is a window into the rest of the team's mindset, that Arizona can beat Duke if they play their style of basketball and if they don't shoot themselves in the foot with self-inflicted errors. And that was one of the biggest things you and I talked about after the Oregon game, was letting them punch you in the mouth, but not because Oregon was on fire to start, which they were, but it's because you're letting them have open shots. You're turning the ball over. You're dribbling it off your feet. It's the small controllables. You got to control what you can control in these games, Damon Dog.
I think Arizona clearly has way more of a built-in identity at this point in the season than they did at that point in the season, Kevin, I think is the best way to put it. And you talk about
boys.
Yeah, 100%. And you talk about controlling the controllables. I think Arizona has to play their best game of the season if they're going to want to take down Duke.
1,000%.
And that's not to say that it's impossible. And I think that we haven't seen that team because we've been talking about it, Kevin. I think the closest we've gotten is the 2 Houston games in terms of start to finish, complete basketball games. But even in both of those games, in the final 3 minutes, Houston is making all the shots, and Arizona is maybe not making a ton of mistakes, but just not going toe to toe with them anymore. Not going toe to toe with those elites.
We compared it to a boxer, right? And like
Yeah.
two heavyweight boxers going at it. If it's a
Championship
stale
rounds.
fight, not stale fight, but a close, stalemate is what I'm looking for here. And going into the last rounds, it's whose gas tank is more full. You know what I mean? Who can continue to stay disciplined to their game plan through fatigue, through adversity, through anxiety, right? And I think that is going to be a huge aspect of this as well, Damon, because and KJ Lewis, I don't have that clip, but KJ Lewis spoke to, just kind of shutting out all the noise and going out there, focusing for 40 minutes and playing disciplined basketball. You and I talk about all these other things that make Arizona basketball. What does it look like to play Arizona basketball? Blah, blah, blah. KJ Lewis put it pretty simple. Like, if they go out and play physical, disciplined basketball, that is Arizona basketball right now. And I think that was a beautiful way to put it, especially with Duke coming up, because you're not going to outskill Duke. As talented as Arizona is, you're not going to out-finesse, out-skill Duke. You got to kind of make it some
you got to
prison
muck
ball.
it up. Yeah.
You got to Houstonify the stuff a little bit, Damon. And yeah, that's kind of what I took away from those two answers as well. Kobe here in the chat mentions travel, saying Arizona got there 4 days early. They're going to be locked in, business trip, and the only thing they're thinking about this whole week is Duke and that damn Cooper Flagg. I'll add that for you, there as well. Not school or anything in Tucson. It's Duke. And Damon, someone did ask both Tommy Lloyd and Caleb Love about travel decisions because, I think Tommy Lloyd's answer was kind of, illustrative of the kind of decisions you have to make as a coach going into a tournament situation. And he likened it to the Clemson year. So I'll let Tommy Lloyd kind of speak on his travel decisions, and we'll listen to Caleb Love as well.
There's no reason about, complaining or making a stink about something that I really had no control over. We've got to adapt to the situation. Duke's in the same situation, I think. I think what we did learn is, this happened to us, what would it be, like 4 years ago now? With 3 years ago. And yeah, we obviously we played in San Diego on a late Sunday, and, we got out of there, and travel was tough that night. So we got back to Tucson really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning, Monday morning. And Monday was a tough day, just everybody trying to get their feet under them. And then, then Tuesday was a travel day to San Antonio, and then you played Houston on Thursday. So, that's that and the distance of travel, were the reasons that we really decided to come straight from Seattle to Newark. You just thought it made more sense because, Seattle to Tucson's about a 3-hour flight. And, we got home really late last night and or Sunday night, Monday morning. And then, yesterday had been a tough day, and then we'd have had to travel cross country today. So I feel good about that decision, and hopefully it pays off come Thursday.
Yeah, it was a pretty long flight for us, coming straight from Seattle to come to Jersey, but I'd rather be here than in Tucson. We just figured that it was better for us to come straight here. The travel was, a little bit would have been a little bit longer, and I think what we've been doing with our free time, just been getting rest, getting recovery, and then watching film. I think that's kind of the approach that we've been taking.
I'll tell you what I like about those answers, Kevin, is that, and I think it goes to the fact that, like, Tommy Lloyd is a 4th-year head coach. This is a team and a program that is building, right? And Tommy is learning every day on the job. I feel like, he looked at what happened last year, what went wrong, and said, how can we improve upon that? And that's what they went with their travel mentality this season, Kevin. So, I feel like, in a way, like in an more overarching sense, I think it just goes to show that Tommy Lloyd is clearly still developing, figuring out what works for him and his program, and what's the best case. And hopefully that this is one of those moments where they look back on it and they say, you know what, traveling, instead of going back home, traveling straight to our location and getting acclimated and practicing out there and whatnot, that was extremely beneficial to our run. And yeah, it goes to show for me that they're thinking of all these little things that they can do, whatever benefits winning, they're gonna put their hands in those pots. But Kevin, another thing that, we need to mention here is that this Duke team is extremely tall, right?
Yes,
Not only are
very
they
tall.
very skilled 5 stars up and down the roster, but they have an immense amount of size, which makes things difficult, right? Because Arizona has been a team that has been the bigger team for majority of the games that they've played this season. Take out like a Kansas, maybe, where you have like KJ Adams playing the 3 and Hunter Dickinson playing the 5, and you're like, that's a pretty big team. But Duke's smallest player is 6'5" on the floor in their starting lineup, Kevin. You have
Crazy, man.
Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor are both 6'5". Tyrese Proctor, way more size than I even thought from watching him play basketball, which is like, he looks to me like more of like a 6'2", 6'3" guy, but apparently he's 6'5". That hair does add some height to you. But yeah, then you have Con Knippel, who's 6'7". You have Cooper Flagg, who's 6'10". You have Maluich, is that how you say it? Maluach, who's 7'2". So
Maluich would be a Polish guy, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Maluach. Sorry for butchering that.
You're good.
But you just have an extremely lengthy team, and Arizona has not seen a ton of extremely lengthy teams. How do they deal with that? How does it look when Arizona is maybe perhaps the smaller team, especially when they have Tobe Awaka at the 5 on the floor? I think that's a spot where Arizona is going to be a lot smaller than Duke. And how are those matchups going to look? We actually have some sound here, Kevin, on Tommy talking about Duke's size and the problems that presents. So why don't we hear from Coach Lloyd?
Real quick before we do hear from Coach Lloyd, this is actually the question I asked Coach Lloyd during the press conference, because I was trying to get him to answer about Kaman Maluach without giving away, I'm not trying to ask him to give away game plan, but I wanted his scout on him as a player, because I think that the matchup between Tobe and Maluach is going to be huge if that is the matchup in this game. And so, yes, this is what Tommy Lloyd had to say to not only Duke's size, but also what Kaman Maluach brings as a player as well.
Sure. I mean, obviously they got great, length, athleticism, and they got really good scheme. I mean, their defensive numbers are off the charts. They've been dominating games defensively, and also been playing great offensively, but, their great defense is helping out their great offense. So, it's really impressive. And Maluach, I mean, he's a problem in there. I mean, he's a legitimate, rim protector that you don't see every day. He's got mobility, in his ball screen coverages. He can get up to get back to protect the rim. So, I mean, he's a hard guy to score over if you're trying to go at him one-on-one in the post. So, I mean, he definitely he definitely presents a lot of challenges.
I just think it's definitely an interesting factor, Kevin, that we're going to have to monitor throughout the rest of this week into game day. Somewhat how does Duke's verticality impact Arizona, a team that, has been the more athletic, bigger team in almost every game they've played this season, even against a team like Houston, which is extremely athletic, right? Like, Arizona's bigger than Houston because Houston likes to play small. So then Duke is that rare combination, Kevin, of skill and size that, I feel like you don't see unless you're talking about a team that is a blue blood or, recruited a top 5 class in the country or whatever. So yeah, I think it's a talking point for this game, Kevin, and it's something that we're gonna have to keep in the Rolodex here as we move forward. We got one more break to hit before we finish out talking about this Arizona Duke matchup, and we're gonna do that right here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Damon, during tournament time, we can all get a little anxious, right? And sometimes you just want to take the edge off. And one way to do that in a happy, healthy way is with our friends over at Cornbread Hemp. Cornbread Hemp THC has the first ever USDA THC gummy, organic as well, by the way. And their mission is to improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. They don't use any synthetic ingredients, none of that harmful stuff that other, common edible or gummy brands might be using. Like I said, it's America's first USDA organic THC edible, proudly grown in Kentucky. Shout out to my guy, Jacob Spalding, also grown in Kentucky. 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, just the right dose. Cornbread uses no harsh solvents like petrochemicals. I don't even know what that is. I'm not smart enough, but Cornbread is smart enough to keep it out of my THC gummy. And anytime I'm trying to have a little happy, healthy hour, Damon, just nothing too crazy just to take the edge off of my day. Sometimes these days are long. Sometimes 3 of your best players leave in the transfer portal and your coach tweets some petty stuff on Twitter, and now I'm anxious. So I like to take the edge off with our friends over at Cornbread Hemp. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment and not worry about your women's basketball team, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA THC gummy that is 100% legal, and a special offer for our PHNX listeners. You get 30% off your first order. Visit cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use promo code PHNX at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com. Promo code PHNX for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. Ding.
Kevin, I want you to write this date down for me.
I got you.
March 31st.
3, 1. Okay.
That is 6 days from now.
6 days.
This many. That's when
Less than
truck
a week.
month ends at Sanderson Ford.
Truck.
If you're looking for a new truck, there is no better time to get one than in truck month. And let me tell you, folks at home, truck month also includes the Broncos, so don't worry about it. We got the Broncos, we got the F-150s, we got the Mavericks, we got the Rangers, we got the Super Duties, any of the big cars that you could get from our friends over at Ford. Sanderson Ford has them up on sale for truck month, ending in just 6 days, Kevin. You could save up to 11 grand on a Ford F-150 truck plus 1.9 financing. You can save up to 4,500 grand on Bronco Sports plus 2.9% financing. You can save up to 4 grand on Ranger trucks plus 3.9% financing. Shop Sanderson for the no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense approach that gets the job done. It's why they're the biggest Ford dealership in the this great nation of ours, Kevin. I was going to say the great state of Arizona. That's not even true. In the United States of America, there is a reason that Sanderson Ford is the biggest Ford dealership, and it's because they are so well trusted. We love them. They treat us like family because, you know, they just, that's how they treat all their clients too, Kevin. It's the same exact way. 2024 models finance offers for 36 months OAC through Ford credit. Discounts include Ford rebates, Sanderson discounts plus trade assistance, and Conquest cash you must qualify for. Offers expire 3/31. Like I said, folks, truck month ending in 6 days. Get on over to Sanderson Ford.
You know, Damon, we were just talking about in that most recent clip about the size that Arizona is going to encounter when they grace the Newark, New Jersey court at the Prudential Center and blah, 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 face up against Duke, right? And we mentioned Tobe Awaka. I want to, you know, enter the November box score with me, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Go back to November with me. The weather's a little chillier. Maybe you're in a place with snow. Thanksgiving is on the horizon, and Caleb Love and Arizona are 2-2, facing off against Duke, who were 4-1 there. And I mentioned this because in that game you had Trey Townsend playing 27 minutes, Matthias Krivas playing 21 minutes, Carter Bryant playing 19, Henri Veesaar playing 13, Tobe Awaka playing 12, ADO playing just 4. And I mentioned, you know, I threw ADO in there at the end because I think he will play more than 4 minutes, whether that's fortunate or unfortunate. I think he will probably play a little bit more than 4 minutes in this game. Yeah. The front court, Awaka, Veesaar, Bryant, Krivas, and Townsend, Damon, that is going to look completely different than when Arizona played Duke in November. I wanted to mention their production alone. 4 points for Trey Townsend, 5 for Krivas, 6 for Bryant, 2 for Veesaar, no points from Tobe Awaka. I simply can't see that being the case again, especially, I mean, Krivas ain't even going to play. He's injured. That's what it is. But my point is, the production you got from Townsend, Bryant, Veesaar, and Awaka, I think no matter what happens, barring like some sort of Bane explosion event, right? Like the front court players are going to score more than a combined 12 points between Awaka, Veesaar, Townsend, and Bryant combined. I think Awaka might pour in 12 himself, to be quite honest with you. Like, I genuinely think that. I think when you go back and watch the highlights of Baylor versus Duke as recently as Sunday, Damon, Norchad Omier was able to find a lot of success against Kaman Malawak using his physicality, using his tenaciousness down low. His positioning was really good for parts of that game.
It was really good, yeah.
Until he got that third foul, got pulled, and then Baylor totally lost. The wheels fell off the wagon. Everything went wrong after that. I think Awaka's a more disciplined player. I said this in our spaces last night. Check out Erica's spaces every Monday at 8 p.m. if you're a Wildcat fan wanting to talk Wildcat sports. But I gave away my game right there. I said Tobe Awaka is a more disciplined player than Norchad Omier, a more physical player than Norchad Omier. He might not be as offensively skilled as Norchad Omier, but that's okay. Like, I think Tobe Awaka's positioning, his physicality, and his overall willingness to rebound and offensive rebound particularly, I think is going to play a huge role in this game for Arizona. And that was not even to mention Henri Veesaar, who, like I said, in that last game, 13 minutes, 5 total rebounds, no assists, a steal, a block, 2 turnovers, 2 fouls, and 2 points from Henri Veesaar. I expect him to have a better performance. I don't expect him to necessarily pour in double-digit points and, double-digit rebounds like I'm predicting Awaka might. But I do expect Veesaar to have a couple blocks. I expect Veesaar to play well on both ends, be active on both ends, not get caught on the in-betweens when he's defending the pick and roll. Because I feel like you discussed it when you were watching the highlights earlier, Damon. There were a lot of times, not only in transition off of turnovers, which you can't have against a team like you cannot have that against a team like Duke, but self-inflicted errors aside, it was a lot of open shots because of Arizona players losing their man in the shuffle of the Duke offense.
Yeah,
and I think that if you're a player like Veesaar and Awaka, I understand that Maluak and Ngongba is not really going to be out on the perimeter often, but Cooper Flagg is, and Arizona switches a lot. So you know what I mean? Like, I think that you have to stay tied to your man next to you, and you have to stay tied to your man that you're defending. If you're Arizona's bigs, because I think that they could win the game for Arizona on Thursday. Quite frankly, Damon, because Caleb Love shot 1 for 9 in that game. We know he's the Duke killer. He's the Blue Devil bandit, if you will. So I think that he's going to have a better performance in this one. And when you really look at the box score, that front court, hopefully, Damon, has played their entire year leading up to this very game where they can show off. Not show off like they're going to school on Duke, but show off that they've improved month over month, week over week, and now they're ready to go out and prove themselves against a team the level of Duke.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Kevin. And you bring up an interesting point about rotations and just kind of the switching that Arizona does, heavy switching defense. I was watching a lot of the highlights, and their Duke was definitely hunting some switches. And I think it brings up the question. I know you had an opinion on this, Kevin. How does ADO factor into the rotation in this game for you? Because obviously we've seen ADO struggle to defend all season long against physical teams. Duke is extremely physical, extremely talented, and Arizona can't afford to get off to the start that they did against Oregon. If it's 19-4 Duke, it's over. That's not a game anymore. Because Duke's not going to choke away a 15-point lead like Oregon did. Arizona was a significantly better team than Oregon. I said it at the time on our show, on our selection show, Kevin. I understand why Arizona was a 4 seed, but I think Arizona is better than a 4 seed. So when you go up against a 5 seed in Oregon, I really do think Arizona was just a straight up better team than them, right? But now you're going up against the number 1 team in net rating in college basketball history. You can't get off to that slow of a start. You can't allow ADO to kind of shoot this team in the foot. So what's your strategy with him? I mean, I know what you would do with your strategy, and I want to hear that. But I also want to know, what do you think Arizona's going to do? Because I don't think that they're going to do what you want them to do.
They won't do what I want them to do. And honestly, the great Saul Bookman, last night, again, shout out to Erica L. Day in these spaces, kind of changed my mind a little bit on benching ADO for this matchup, Damon. But I do think that the leash has to be like literally this short for ADO.
The leash is not, you can't see it. It's microscopic.
I need him to be like in my arms. I don't even need a leash. Like with my little dog, if he's not on a leash, I'm holding him, right? You know what I'm saying? I need ADO here. I need to hold ADO like this to make sure he's not biting nobody or, peeing on something he shouldn't pee on. You know what I mean? Like, look, ADO, this is not the game to run ADO out there. And if ADO, by the way, Anthony DeLorso, if you're seeing this and you want to go out,
watching.
if you want to go out there and ball out next game, please do. I would love to come on the post game and say how wrong I was and how amazing you are and how you were the Duke killer and all this. But
that would be I would do anything for ADO to own Duke.
If Tommy Lloyd starts ADO, realistically, ADO has like 5 possessions. 3 offensive, 2 defensive. If they hunt ADO twice on one end, get 1 or 2 buckets, I would love to see ADO get sat. Like I really don't think that the level of 3-point shooting that he does bring is worth the level of defense that he gives you on the other end in a matchup like this against Duke, man. Like the size that Duke brings, the skill that Duke brings, the scheme that Duke brings, ADO is you can't. Like Saul, real quick before you go, Saul brought up the point that you probably shouldn't bench ADO because you don't want to mess with this team's rhythm. You found something that works with this team.
I'm with that.
And you should not alter that because whatever rhythm they're in, it's cooking. And so you should let that go. Totally right. I think Saul is on that. But if you're going to start ADO, you had better pull him just as fast as that ball tipped off. Like, you had better pull him very, very fast if he's not out there hooping immediately.
Yeah, KJ needs to be like at the scorer's table.
Yeah, start
within
KJ
seconds.
at the scorer's table.
Yeah. But as far as ADO, I'll do you one further with you saying that like he needs to be on the bench the rest of the game if he's missing threes or if he's giving up some points on defense, right? If he turns the ball over on offense, I want him in the locker room, Kevin. Don't even let him sit out there on the bench with the boys.
You're right, and we do gotta mention Javier's comment here because Javier is right. ADO did nail the clutch free throws. He nailed every one. He could have shot 1,000 free throws. And they all would have went in, right? But I guess my point is like
if we need free throws, I want ADO in the game.
Fine, great, awesome. But I just
I watched a highlight, Kevin.
If Arizona doesn't blow that game the way that they almost blew that game at the end, ADO isn't needed to shoot those free throws. You know what I mean?
True.
And part of the reason Arizona was down 15 points is because ADO is a turnstile on the other end. If you watch the beginning of that game, I believe him and Trey Townsend each let up the first 2 baskets. And I think like Trey Townsend is a much better defender than Anthony Delorso. He just kind of got lost in a
on ball.
He got lost in a switch and whatnot. But ADO like on ball, if you look at him, dudes are just running through him.
Yeah.
Like they're just taking him off the dribble every time.
ADO on ball is
and
not
every
good.
player on Duke's roster would cook ADO one-on-one with all due respect. Like in a game setting, in a live game setting, on paper, every player on Duke can take ADO off the dribble. And so for me, if you're going to start that kid, if you're going to start ADO, it has to look good in the first literal 60 seconds, or else I want to see him on the bench. And maybe you give him a second shot like 10 minutes later, like when Duke goes to their second rotation, whatnot. Maybe you get ADO in there then. But I don't want to see him giving up buckets, Damon. And I do acknowledge that he has some positives that he brings to the game. He can shoot the 3 very well. He's a great free throw shooter. He's a great energy guy too. He'll hit a 3 and let everybody in the arena know about it, right? But the defensive stuff in March, you cannot have it. So that's my ADO thing, Damon. I'm not anti-ADO. I don't hate him, but I just think there are some matchups where you can't have him out there for very long.
Listen, it's never hate from me or you.
Sports hate is a thing. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you hate your rivals, you don't really hate them though.
But at the end of the day, I said a lot of things, nasty things. I mean, I never did, really. Actually, everyone knows it. But I said a lot of nasty things
podcast.
about Trey Townsend throughout the season.
Yeah.
But I've never hated Trey Townsend.
You just want them to play better.
I want the team to win.
We're trying to get winning
games.
basketball out there. Yeah. Trying to get winning basketball out there. And I don't think having ADO out there for more than like 8 to 10 minutes in this game is gonna get you there.
So Kevin, I knew Duke was tall. I didn't know that they were the tallest.
They are the tallest. Like 79.4 inches on average, I think.
79.8.
Yeah.
They're the number 1 average height team in the entire in all of college basketball, Kevin.
Yeah, they are.
They're number 1 in a lot when you look at it.
Well
Duke's
said.
very good, but I think
they're actually incredible.
Javier makes a good point as well about the ACC. While they have seen teams that are similar in height to Arizona, I did some quick research, Kevin. Clemson, fairly similar in height. SMU, another one. North Carolina is really small. But there are some teams in the ACC that are similar in height to Arizona, but there are no teams that are similar in the combination of height plus athleticism as Arizona that Duke played all season long. Minus, playing Arizona in non-conference in Auburn and whatnot. But I'm talking about their conference slate. And this is what we've talked about with the Pac-12, right, Kevin? With the Pac-12, Arizona was hurt in the fact that they would kill the non-conference slate, go into conference play, and reel off, 18 of 20 games against Pac-12 opponents. Then they're not prepared for the latter portions of the season at all. I think we could be in a spot here where Duke's somewhat similar. And I know Duke has taken very, very good, quick care of business against their 2 teams they've played thus far. But Arizona handled Baylor as well, and also Duke with their height is a horrible matchup for Baylor with their height. Like Baylor has no size. We knew that all season long. That's why Arizona dominated Baylor. So on paper, looking back on it in hindsight, Kevin, it makes perfect sense why Duke would have blown them out in that game. This is the first real challenge for Duke in a long time.
It is.
And I think that you can catch them off guard with that. And there's a reason that I find that this 9.5 even, I think that's part of the reason I find this 9.5 even more disrespectful, because they haven't seen a team like Arizona in quite a while, Kevin. And, you know, I don't think this is a blowout by any means. I think Arizona is in this game from start to finish. And I really do think that being in New Jersey for 4 days, Caleb Love, you know, the Duke killer, stewing on it, the whole team stewing on that loss earlier in the season after that's the craziest Mikhail Center has been in, you know, a decade probably, Kevin. Like, I think that they circled this one. They remembered it. And I said it during our preview show when they announced our bracket, that this was somewhat of a murderer's row of opponents that Arizona would circle and want to get revenge against later in the season.
It's the Grim Reaper meme.
It is. And I think that this is the pinnacle of it right now. This Arizona team has wanted a rematch on Duke since the moment they lost to him. Now this team is tenfold better. Let's see it. I know I'm hyped up about it, and you know, I really do think that the Cats have way more of a shot in this game than people are you know, kind of portraying that they do.
I do agree with you, Damon. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to preview this matchup today after we get off air. I'm definitely about to record a little bit of a preview, get that out for all of you guys today, breaking down Duke and how Arizona can pull off the upset here and move on to the Elite Eight. But you know, I think we should lead the people on a positive note, Damon, today. We started with a little bit of pessimism, a little bit of negativity with the Adia Barnes stuff and the Jada Williams and all this. But I think we leave off with Tommy Lloyd. You know, unless you have anything else, Tommy Lloyd spoke today about where Arizona is at as a program and how, you know, yes, Arizona is still fighting for something this season. But if you had told Tommy Lloyd where Arizona would be at 4 years ago, he'd be very happy with that. And so here's what Tommy Lloyd had to say about where Arizona's at as a program right now.
I mean, Bruce, this is all I know. I mean, they're one. So like the last 4 years, Nate, you know, my VIP SID here, he showed me some stats that the last 4 years our average seed is 2.25. Okay. And tied with Purdue for second. Houston's first at 2.0. Guys, and we've made 3 out of 4 Sweet 16s. Okay. We're knocking on the door. We're right there. I mean, the program's where it needs to be, and the foundation's getting stronger. Okay. You know, there's been a lot going on, you know, at our university and in college athletics, and we're figuring it out all together. You know, the administration, you know, me and Arizona basketball's in a good way. So, you know, let's to me, we're right where we need to be. You know, I think, you know, when you asked me to reflect a little bit, you know, if you would have told me 4 years ago that those would be our numbers, I probably would have been pretty happy with it. So like, I'm excited for this opportunity. You know, I mean, obviously we're playing a great Duke team. You know, obviously John and I are good friends and somebody I have a lot of respect for. I think he's done an amazing job.
You know, Damon, Tommy Lloyd, always a classy dude, always willing to shout out the other program that they're playing against. And I just wanted to, you know, remind everybody, huge game coming up on Thursday, huge opportunity for the Arizona Wildcats. Clearly a thing that they are not taking lightly, but also as fans, let's just collectively woo-saw, deep breath, ladies and gentlemen, because yeah, Tommy Lloyd is right. He was kind of talking his stuff there a little bit, kind of flexing his muscle in a inadvertent way by saying, hey, we've made 3 or 4 Sweet 16s. Not a lot of teams are doing that. And I think that, you know, while you want to win the big game, while you want to make the Final Four, while you would rather make an Elite Eight than a Sweet 16, et cetera, and so on and so forth, I think that there are a huge amount of positives to take away from where Arizona is at right now as a program, where it stands right now among other programs in the nation. And I think that having a coach like Tommy Lloyd that clearly wants to win and clearly wants it bad. Like, I think Tommy Lloyd really wants it bad. But I also think Tommy Lloyd's not a guy that's going to lose perspective on what, you know, really matters, which is the direction of your program as a whole. You can win tomorrow against Duke, but if your program doesn't recover and doesn't continue to make that upward trajectory, you end up like Arizona women's basketball, and Tommy Lloyd's out of here in a couple years. You know what I mean? So I think that the perspective that Tommy kind of mentioned there kind of resonated with me personally, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting take to have. Obviously, it doesn't mean that they're playing with house money, right? But I think that it's just, you know, a little perspective here on a Tuesday morning, a little afternoon perspective, Damon.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you're like Mr. Tommy Lloyd but at the, you know, so I'm pretty sure you had that perspective before Tommy said it.
I did. I did.
So I think some other people in this fan base might need to hear that. But yeah, at the end of the day, Arizona under Tommy Lloyd has been incredible. And if you're an Arizona fan and you're mad about the lack of, you know, late season success, I think that's coming. I really do. I think if we gave Tommy Lloyd the amount of years that we gave Sean Miller, I do believe Arizona will make a Final Four in that time period. I will put my stamp on that. So, you know, might not come this year. You run into a really good team, but at the end of the day, Kevin, 3 Sweet 16s in 4 years, you know, nothing to scoff at.
And it might come this year.
It could come this year, but this is a program and a team that is on the right track, and a place that players would want to play. Right, like you watch Arizona this year, and you would say, I want to play for a coach like Tommy Lloyd. You watch Caleb Love and kind of the way that he's been treated in the media and the national attention and kind of the negativity surrounding him, and the way Tommy talks about him and uplifts him and kind of like empowers him on the court, right? If you're a star player, why wouldn't you want to play for that guy? I think that if we need to keep the perspective, this Duke game means everything.
I don't want absolutely.
I don't want to take the magnifying glass off of it.
I also don't want to do that.
I am the guy who like well and truly like it will mean everything to Kevin. Like this is I mean, Kevin, you know, you're gonna be watching this game with me. I'm gonna be screaming from the first whistle on. But we are in a good spot as Arizona fans. This is sustainable. We should be happy with where this program is. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna. Everything Tommy says there is on the money at the end of the day.
Yeah, and by the way, I am Tommy Lloyd water carrier. I will support Tommy Lloyd. If Tommy Lloyd has no more fans, I am likely deceased.
You're dead.
But I think, you know, Damon, like the Duke game does mean everything. Like as much as I loved where Arizona's at, as much as I love the perspective that Tommy Lloyd shared, like the Duke game still means everything, right? It's just
funny,
a little
Kevin.
bit of it is just important to keep that perspective, because as high as our expectations are, that does not mean that it should remove the joy from the run that we've already had with Tommy Lloyd. It's been a very joyous run, full of bumps, full of bruises, right? Clemson, Prince, not pretty.
Not really full of them.
But I'm saying
a couple of them.
But if you look at his postseason stuff, right? Clemson, Princeton, those are some pretty large bruises to eat. I feel like when you look at the run that Arizona could have had if they get past a team like Clemson, whatever, we can get it, whatever. But I just feel like it's important to keep that perspective of this game means everything, but also it's been a great run so far, and it could only get better from here.
Crazy things happen in single elimination tournaments. That's why they're single elimination tournaments. It's why we love them. But here's another. I think we can get out on this, Kevin. A little bit of saving grace for Arizona fans.
Bang!
This is a tournament where we have not seen a lot of upsets, right? Everyone knows that. People are calling it the most boring
chalk madness
tournament ever. Chalk, blah, blah, blah. I think we're gearing up for the upsets this weekend. And there would be no bigger upset than the Arizona Wildcats taking down the Duke Blue Devils.
I love it.
Kevin,
I love that.
There's no way we go an entire March Madness of chalk. It's time for the real games to start. I think that there's something to be said about, we didn't get the Cinderella runs this year, but we do have 16 power conference teams, mano y mano, and potentially the most high-level basketball that we've ever seen in the NCAA tournament on deck here.
It could be one of the better games we've ever seen, like in our fandom time, right? I think like these two teams are setting up for a true chess match, mano a mano, like you kind of alluded to. We spoke to how Houston was like a boxing match. This one could also be like a high-level combat sports bout as well, Damon. So I'm excited for it.
It's all Kevin's mind thinks in.
It is.
Tommy Lloyd and UFC.
I haven't had a good MMA card in God knows how long,
50% of Kevin's brain is occupied by either Tommy Lloyd or UFC at all times.
Leon Edwards is like averse to hurting people.
Maybe 10% St. Louis.
Sean Brady is an incredible wrestler, so he's just going to dominate. I didn't even get to watch that card this past weekend, and I was incredibly bored. But Arizona Wildcats basketball is not boring. Arizona Wildcats basketball is not averse to getting gritty and hurting other teams and doing all that stuff. Arizona Wildcats basketball is the anti-Leon Edwards. They're ready to put a beating on your ass.
Back off.
Let me tell you that right now. But yeah, Damon, I am ready for this Duke game. I am fired up and ready to go.
It will be electric, Kevin, and the rest of this week is going to be electric as well. Kevin and I are going to have you covered with all of your comprehensive Arizona athletics coverage, a little bit of women's basketball talk to start things off with it hot and in the news, and then running you out with some Duke preview on a Tuesday here. I am Damon Dog. Follow me at DAWG there, Damon Dog. He is Kevin Thomas. He's at Kevo Post, KEVOPOSTS. We are at PHNX_Wildcats. This, of course, is the AZ Wildcats podcast. Good viewership today. Appreciate everybody for hopping in the chat here, conversing with us, keeping us on topic, getting us off topic a little bit. It's always the best when the chat is involved with the show, Kevin. Make sure you guys drop a like on this video. It helps us out immensely. 21 likes with the amount of people we had in here is just not nearly enough right now.
I'm not going to be sleeping tonight, Damon.
And
dog.
Kevin needs his sleep prior to this Duke game. We need him well rested for Thursday. So make sure you guys run it up on the likes.
Turn it up.
We appreciate it. Like I said, follow us, follow our account, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like this video. We will be back for a Wednesday edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast, continuing to preview the Duke versus Arizona matchup all week here in lieu to Arizona's Sweet 16 matchup. Until then, we will catch you next time. Peace, bear down.
And go Cats, y'all.
We all silly like the mayor.